but this will help you avoid most merge conflicts. Okay. Did you find where to do this? I see some head nods. So usually when I install paratext on someone, I do this for them. It's a good thing to remember to do. Sometimes I forget. I think I'm at the end of my list for what we said we would do today, and it's almost 5 o'clock.
Should I do a little bit about searching?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Change the view. Okay, so there's one more topic that I'd like to show and have you try out before we close for today, and that is searching. Now, we have the IMTP translation here, and actually that's a copy of an English translation that was printed. And that was made for Aboriginals in Australia. So it is English, but quite a special kind of English. Some of it sounds very normal, but others, if you read through it, you say, oh, this is not how I would say it. I see it's English, but it's a different kind of English. Anyway, so, for example, I'm now in Mark 1, verse 21, and it says, Jesus and his followers went to a town called Capernaum. On Saturday they went to the Jewish meeting house. Now, in most of our English translations we don't have the term Jewish meeting house. Do you know what we call it? Synagogue. Synagogue, yes. So this translation is for people who don't know the word synagogue, so they say Jewish meeting house. Okay. Now I want to know a little bit more. Imagine I'm working on my translation or I'm checking, and I say, okay, now here I have Jewish meeting house, and I want to know, is that term used anywhere else in the translation? So I can do a search. Now if we want to do a search in paratext, of course we want to search in this particular translation. We don't want to search in the Good News or the NIV. So the search has to do with this translation, and that's why it's not surprising that the searching is in this menu. And so you go to the project menu, and in the second column there is a thing, find. Now your find, when you open find, it may look like this, and try it out. Some of you may like to use your keyboard instead of going all the way to a menu, and if you want to search with the keyboard, it's quite helpful to know that it is always Control plus F. The F for find. It's like that in Microsoft Word, it's like that in every program. So if you remember Control F, it will help you to find the search function, the find function in any program. So you can use that in paratext as well. But in case you forget, you can just go to the menu and go to find. Now, it may look like this. So I can, in this box, I can type in anything I want to find. So let's me type in meeting house with an E. Now I can choose, do I want to find it only in the current book? The current book is the book that I'm in here, that's the book of Mark. Or do I want to find it in every book, in all the books? Well, I want to find it in all the books. I could even go here and choose and say, okay, I want to find it in Matthew and Mark and Luke and not in the others, but the most simplest thing is just to say either the current book or all books. But that's not all. Here you may see a button that says more, and if you click that you will see more search options. Because you can do searches in a number of different ways. Here is an interesting button. It says restrictions. Now if I click on that, I can search for whole word only, whole word only. So it will find the word meeting house where only when it's a whole word. Or I can say no restriction. Now what is the difference? Well, if you are searching for meeting house and you do whole word only, it will only find meeting house, meeting house, meeting house. It will not find meeting houses, because it has an S after it. I often search for no restriction, because that way I can find things that also have bits after it, suffixes. And especially in the Micronesian language, it's often useful to search for something and say no restrictions, because it will find everything, even when there is one of these many endings, one of these many suffixes that you use on the words. So you can search for a certain verb root and it will find all the forms. So let's find this. Yeah. And then there is a button here that says show verse context. And that will mean it will find the word meeting house, all the places where it's used. And it will also show a few words before and after. So you can have a little hint of where it's used. So I've clicked this. I have selected no restriction. I'm looking in all the books. And now I hit the find button. So then Paratext will show you a window of all the places where this meeting house appears. And usually it will find some place in your screen. It will open an extra window, it will a little squeeze the other ones to make some room, to make some space for this extra find window. In my screen it was already open, so here it is. And we see straight away, so the first one is in Matthew 4 verse 23. And it shows in bold what I was looking for. Here, meeting house. And in fact we see that here it's meeting houses. So straight away it has found something in the plural. So he taught people in the Jewish meeting houses. Okay, maybe I want to check that out. Maybe I want to see this verse, and then I can simply, in this list, double click on this line. I double click here, and you see that immediately this jumps to meeting house in Matthew 4 verse 23. And you see we're now Matthew 4 verse 23, just like I clicked here. Okay, and then I can check this out. Okay, he taught people in the Jewish, again it's the Jewish meeting houses, yeah. Now I have another one, I can go down this list, and maybe there's another one that I want to check out. Okay, Jesus saw her, Luke 13:12. Let's check that out. So, how do I check that out? Click twice, yeah. Double click here in the search list. Double click on that line, and it will take me there straight away. Okay, now I'm in Luke 13:12. Jesus saw her in that meeting house. Okay. And the nice thing is that the IMTP, my own translation, will jump to that verse. But of course the other translations will also jump to that same verse, because they all go in sync. They're all in the same position. So that way I can do a simple search and then go through it and find other cases and see, okay, what have we done there? And that's sometimes quite useful. Now, I want to check out, okay, these translators have said Jewish meeting house, but have they done that everywhere? Or have they also used synagogue? Yep, Peter?
Also, in the search window, you see at the top, it says 60 items.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, it also shows you how many results there are, 60 items. Yeah. So sometimes when you do a search, it will give you very many results, sometimes a bit too many to be useful. I mean, okay, let me say, okay, I want to find the verb to be. I want to find to be. But accidentally, I'm not thinking of the restrictions. I say no restrictions. I wasn't thinking straight, so what happens? B, 3,644 items. Now, is it all the verb to be? No, it isn't, because here, B4. Here it's B. Here is the word number. You ever realize that the word number has B in it? So that search obviously wasn't good. So I said, oh, that's far too many. I'll go again. I hit Control F for find. And say, yeah, I want to find the word to be, but of course it has to be whole word only. Well, let's find again. How many do I have now? Oh, still 1,246. Still a bit too much to be useful. Because usually you don't want to go over 1,200 items. That will take you all week and it won't teach you much. Anyway, this this shows you how you can search. There are more search options, but I'm just doing the basics now. There's one other thing I want to show you, which is sometimes maybe useful in your language. Say, okay, now this is of course we had a word, let me see, in Capernaum, huh? Where was that? Now I've now ended up in John, but I've gone through all these different verses. So I want to go back to where I was. I was in Mark. How can I do that? How can I go back to Mark? This one you mean? Right, yeah. Yeah, you're ahead of me. Yeah, very, very good. So here is a little arrow. All the way at the top, right below the menu. And that Paratext remembers all the different places where you've been, all the different verses that you've been through. So you can go back to the previous one. Now I'm in Luke 13. I go back once more. Matthew 4. Remember we clicked on Matthew 4. And I go back once more. Oh, there we are. Mark 21. Mark 1:21. That's where he was. So if you jump to another verse, you can use this back arrow. So it does mean that you can check out other verses, other places, and still go back. Of course, you can also always go here and type in the book and chapter and verse. That's okay too. But the back arrow is quite useful. Now next to that arrow, there's a tiny little triangle. Tiny little one. And if you see that, if you click on that, it will show you the other places where you've been. So you can select any point in we call that your browsing history. It's like on the internet, you can also often go, okay, go back one page, and it shows you the things you've seen before. And I can even go forward again. And now I'm again in John 16. And here on the little triangle, I can see, oh, okay, these are the verses I was working on. Yeah, I think I need to go back to Mark 1:21. Now, one more thing, and that's, will be another very useful item which we'll only touch on very briefly. Now, I see here the name Capernaum. Capernium. Does that strike you as strange, this name? You say there might be something wrong with it? The spelling is different, huh? Because in normal English we spell it Capernaum. So it's all the same, except there's no I here, but an A. So like this. So I may think, okay, I think I need to correct this. There's a mistake here. But before I correct this, let me check one thing. Let me see how it has been written in other places. Now, I can do a search, like we've done before. Let me do that. And let me just look for Capern. And let the rest, we'll leave it open. Capern. And I will say no restriction. And look, I didn't even put a capital here, because normally when you search, it will find anything with or without capital. That is, here it says match case. Match case means use capital or not. I let that turned off. I don't click this. So Capern without a capital letter is fine. Click find. Let's see what it finds. So we see 14 items. Here, 14, okay. And yes, this is Capernaum. 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 So it seems that the translators have done, whether it's right or wrong, at least they've done it consistently. And that's important, that the name is always spelled the same way. So yeah, that seems to be consistent. I can also check this out one different way, and that is an extra tool, which is very useful, and which I use a lot, and that is the word list. Has any one of you ever used the word list in Paratext? See some nods? Yeah. Most people shaking. Now, Paratext keeps a complete word list of all the words that are used in a project. It's like a dictionary without definitions. And again, of course, the word list belongs to one project. So we go to the menu for that project. And then all the way to the right, there's the tools menu. And the second item there is word list. Now, again, for many functions, Paratext has also a key to open them, the shortcut keys. And if you remember those, it's even easier, but you have to remember them. And if you don't use something very often, you forget. That's okay. You can always open the word list from here. But now, you see, I put my cursor here. And now here in the corner, it shows me a little reminder. Control W. Control W. It shows me that I can also open that word list by hitting Control W. And it's sort of easy, W for word list. Well, this time we have done it through the menu. It's the same thing. So I'm going to click on here. And it will open a new window. So yeah, it's on my other screen, so I have to drag it. Just a second. That looks like this. So very simple, a list of all the words in the project. And it shows all the words in all the books of the project. I can also click here and say I only want to see the words in the current book. Now what is my current book? That is Mark. I only want to see the words in Mark. And I see here at the bottom that now there are 1220 words. But I can also see the words in all the books. And now there are 2713 words. That's actually not very much. It does show us that this translation is in simple English. It doesn't use all the difficult words. Anyway, we see the word list now. And here is a box to the right, top, where I can type some text to filter. Now, I don't know if you're seeing that box. If you're not seeing it, you may have to make the word list a little bigger. And maybe some of the coaches can help you with that. You have to drag it a little bit to the right, and then you will also see this box. And here I can just type some letters to filter the words in the word list. So we were looking at the name Capernaum, right? So I'm just going to type C, A, B, and you see, as I start typing, it will only show the words that have those letters. So now it only shows the words that have the letter C, A, P anywhere. Well, and actually there are only 4 words in this whole translation with cap. So apparently they never talk about caps, or about capers, or about, I don't know, capsicums, Captain, Cappadocia, Cape, and Capernaum. And now we see, oh yes, we have the word Capernaum, but never in the translation is there a word Capernaum with an A. So, of course I'm now demonstrating this for English, but you can also do this for your own language. You see a word and you say, okay, how is this being spelled? And you can just type a few letters and see, okay, it's used a lot in the translation. And you can also try another word and say, okay, do we ever have the word synagogue? Let me try. Synagogue.